Ever get that, like, primal urge to just bolt when you're playing a scary game?
Oh, yeah.
Like, every instinct screaming, R-U-N.
Definitely. Especially in a game like Alien Isolation where, well,
Exactly, exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. Those moments in Alien Isolation when you can actually, strategically, make a run for it.
sorry.
We've got this, what seems to be, fan-made guide to the top 12 running areas in the game.
Okay.
Let's, unpack that.
Sure, yeah.
Is knowing these safe zones actually helpful, or does it just mess with your head even more?
It's interesting because, on paper, you'd think knowing where you can run would be empowering, like give you a sense of control, right?
Yeah, totally.
But Alien, Isolation,
Yeah.
it's so good at atmosphere and dread that often it feels like the opposite.
Oh, absolutely. It's like the game gives you these little glimmers of hope, these spaces where you think, okay, maybe I can outrun this thing, just to yank the rug out from under you later.
Precisely. And what's fascinating is how this guide highlights that. 12 running areas, at first glance, that sounds like a decent amount of freedom.
Yeah. It makes you think you can run more often than you probably can.
And you actually can, especially in the early game. It throws a bunch of runnable sections at you, almost like it's lulling you into this false sense of security.
Okay, so which missions are we talking specifically?
You've got missions 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, even parts of 11. You look at the level design wide corridors, long sight lines. You almost feel like if I just time it right, I'm golden.
Yeah, yeah. Like you can outsmart the AI, use the environment to your advantage.
But that's what the game wants you to think.
Oh, for sure. And then it rips your heart out. I'm thinking specifically of Mission 9 here, that lever. Oh, man, still gives me chills.
Oh yeah, that lever pull. That's the turning point, right?
It is. You go from feeling like you've got a handle on things, even a little cocky maybe, to...
Boom. The hive's locked down. Aliens a constant threat. No more running. It's masterful in how it shifts the tone so drastically.
And the level design reflects that. Suddenly, everything feels claustrophobic, inescapable.
Exactly. It's not just about the alien itself, but how the environment reinforces that feeling of dread.
So good, so good.
And then, when you're about ready to swear off running altogether, the game throws you that bone you were talking about. Mission 11,
Oh, you're right.
entirely runnable.
It's like a breath of fresh air. Well, fresh, relatively.
Exactly. But again, it's all about playing with your expectations. It wouldn't be nearly as effective if the game hadn't just put you through the ringer in Mission 9.
It's such a smart way to use pacing to manipulate the player's emotions.
Right. So it becomes less about where you can run and more about when and how that makes you feel at that point in the story.
It's almost like the running mechanics themselves become another storytelling tool.
Exactly. And as we move into the later missions, running evolves again. Becomes less about freedom and more about calculated risk.
Yeah. It's less woohoo, open space, time to sprint, and more, okay, if I don't make a break for it now, W, I'm done for.
Exactly. Mission 14, for example, gives you a little breathing room at the start and the finish.
Yeah.
But that middle section, pure tension.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And then 16, you can run a little in the first half, but once you get that EVA suit, forget it.
Yeah, the EVA suit really puts the kibosh on any sprinting aspirations.
Then with the xenomorph constantly stalking you at that point, those last few missions, it's all about stealth and survival. No more running from your problems.
You get that one last burst of speed at the end of 17, but by then you're practically running on fumes. Both you and Dee, your character, I imagine.
A perfect encapsulation of the journey, right?
Yeah.
From cautiously optimistic sprinting to creeping through the shadows, terrified of making a sound.
It's amazing how something as simple as running can become so layered, so powerful in the hands of skilled game designers.
It really speaks to the brilliance of the game, doesn't it?
It really does. It makes you see those open spaces in a whole new light, like almost as a threat in themselves.
Because you know they won't last.
Exactly. So, for our listeners out there, we have to ask, knowing these safe zones, would you approach the game any differently?
That's the question, isn't it?
Does it make you feel empowered? Or does the knowledge of when you can't run just amplify the fear? We want to hear your thoughts. Ever get that feeling, like you're in a way over your head, heart's in your throat, that alien. Isolation dread creeping in.
Oh, tell me about it. It's like the game's designed to make you feel hunted.
And you just need to run. Anywhere. But knowing where you can actually make a break for it. That's today's deep dive. We're going through this top 12 running areas list, and it's got some real surprises, I gotta say.
Yeah, this should be good. Cause an alien. Isolation, Knowing where you can run is almost as important as knowing when you absolutely can't.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Adds a whole new layer to the strategy, you know? Like, the end of mission 2, this list says it's a runner's paradise. I always felt like one wrong step there and game over.
See, that's the brilliance of it. It gives you this little taste of freedom just before, well, but the catch is it only works before you hit that elevator button.
Ah, sneaky, sneaky. So it as possible. I always assumed it was just a death trap waiting to happen.
That's the psychological game right there. They make you think you can't, even though technically you can. For a little bit anyway.
Talk about messing with your head. Makes those close calls even more intense when you do finally have to confront the, you know what.
Right, and it makes the times you can run, those little gasps of air, that much more meaningful. Like in Mission 4 with all that gunk.
Yeah.
You can run, technically, but who wants to?
Oh man, that slime. It's like choosing your favorite flavor of awful, right? Slow and terrifying, or slightly faster, equally terrifying, and covered in goo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the option is there. And just knowing you could, even if you don't, changes how you approach that whole section, don't you think?
It's true, it's true. Okay, then there's the vents. Always the vents. Mission 6 specifically. I mean, the xenomorph is crawling around in there. You'd think that'd be instant game over if you tried to sprint.
You'd think. But nope, the list gives you the go-ahead there. Another one of those gotcha moments the game's so good at.
So it is possible to outrun the xenomorph in the vents. I mean, I never dared to try it, but that's good to know.
It really comes down to the game's design. They want you on edge. Questioning every instinct is what makes it so effective.
Mind games. Okay, what about those missions where you actually can, like, breathe a little? We're talking 7, 8, 11, 12, 13. All clear for running, right? Those felt almost too good to be true.
Think of them as a reward for surviving the previous nightmares. You need those moments to regroup, plan, maybe even enjoy the scenery for a hot second.
Before it all goes to hell again, right? Because then, bam, mission 14 starts out all open and promising, but once that lever gets pulled...
That's it, game over, man. Hives activated, xenomorphs everywhere, no more running. One of those moments where you really feel the tension crank up a notch.
Brutal. Though the list does mention mission 15 throws you a bone. A lone facehugger you can outrun.
Gotta have your little victories where you can find them.
And then one final victory lap as the credits roll. I'm talking, of course, about the end of mission 17.
A little taste of freedom before the trauma sets in, right?
Yeah.
Classic Alien. Isolation.
Exactly. But let's not forget, once that xenomorph becomes a constant presence in mission 16, sprinting is out the window. And anytime you're stuck in the EVA suit...
Yeah, those are walking-only zones. Makes sense, really. The suit's about survival, not speed.
So there you have it. Knowing where you can run in Alien, isolation isn't just about finding a safe spot, it's about understanding the game's pacing, the way it messes with your expectations.
Makes you wonder, even when you know you're safe, does that feeling ever really go away? That lingering dread.
Man, I get chills just thinking about it. You hear that, folks? Next time you're creeping through Sevastopol Station, ask yourself, are you really safe? Or is the game still messing with you?
All right, buckle up, folks, because today we're diving headfirst into the terrifying world of Alien Isolation.
A game that needs no introduction, right?
Oh, absolutely. But here's the thing. We're not talking about the usual hide-and-seek, cower-in-a-locker gameplay. Nope. Today's deep dive is focused on something completely unexpected. Running.
Running, you say? Now that's a bold strategy, considering there's a certain xenomorph on board with a bit of a temper.
Exactly. It's like bringing a pool noodle to a lightsaber duel. But, believe it or not, we stumbled upon this list online, a gamer's top 12 running areas within Alien Isolation.
Okay, I have to admit, you've piqued my curiosity. I've always been fascinated by how games use tension and release, and, well, running from the xenomorph just seems counterintuitive to the survival horror we expect.
Right, it's like the complete opposite of what your instincts are screaming at you. But according to this list, there are entire sections, even missions, where you can, well, outrun the fear. For example, remember Mission 2?
Oh yeah, where you meet that unfortunate fellow, Axel.
Exactly. So apparently, after Axel departs rather abruptly, you can actually run until you hit that elevator button.
It's like a fleeting moment of reprieve, a brief gasp of air before you're plunged back into the depths of dread.
It's almost cruel, right? You're still reeling from what just happened. And the game's like, here, have a little freedom. PSYCH.
Like a perfectly timed jump scare, only instead of a fright, it's a fleeting sense of control.
And it makes you wonder, was that intentional on the developer's part?
Oh, absolutely, it has to be. You see, these breather moments, they're not just random occurrences. They're carefully woven into the game's fabric, playing with your expectations, keeping you constantly on edge. Like, take Mission 4, for example.
Okay, so Mission 4. Let's deal with that one.
This one is interesting because it's listed as mostly safe for running, but there's a catch, and I quote, "Mind the slime dripping from vents."
Ah, okay. So even in these so-called safe zones, you're not completely off the hook.
Precisely. It's like a constant underlying hum of tension. You're allowed to run, but don't get complacent.
Don't let your guard down for a second, right?
Exactly. Now, I'll contrast that with Mission Sane, which, according to this list, is like the opposite end of the spectrum.
Oh.
This mission is apparently completely xenomorph-free. You can run, gun down Working Joes and that alien. Nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be heard.
Wait, really? The alien just takes a vacation? What's he doing, getting a space latte?
It's both hilarious and unnerving, isn't it? This sudden break from the established pattern makes you question the very fabric of the game's reality.
Right, like, is this a glitch? Or are the developers messing with us?
And that's the beauty of it. It gets under your skin, makes you doubt your every move, but that's not all.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yes. Our intrepid gamer has grouped together missions 8, 11, 12, and 13, labeling them all safe for running, almost like a pattern's emerging, right?
I see, so where's the twist?
Well, Mission 14 throws us another curveball. Safe at the beginning and end, but after a certain lever gets pulled, nope. No more running allowed.
Man, these developers are good. It's like they're reading our minds, giving us just enough freedom to make us comfortable, and then yank, back to square one.
They understand that the true horror lies not in the constant chase, but in the moments of quiet anticipation, the sudden shifts in power.
So like a horror movie where the killer just disappears for a bit.
Exactly. You're left wondering, where did he go? When's he coming back? Why is it so quiet?
And then bam, he's back, and you're worse off than before.
Yeah.
But moving on, what about Mission 15? This one seems a little different, right?
It's practically a stroll in the park compared to the rest. The only thing you need to worry about is a lone facehugger.
Oh, so basically a walk in the park after a marathon of terror.
Precisely. And then, just when you thought you could catch your breath, Mission 16 comes along and says, nope, not today. Safe for the first half, but once that clunky EVA suit comes into play, it's back to the slow, agonizing crawl of dread with a constantly active xenomorph hot on your tail.
Sounds like the game just loves to keep you guessing.
Absolutely. It's a masterclass in manipulating player expectations, keeping you constantly on edge. Now, the real question is,
Does knowing about these running areas actually enhance the experience? Or does it, ruin the surprise?
that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Does knowledge empower you, or does the mystery, the unknown, add to the fear factor?
Yeah. It's kind of like reading the spoilers for a scary movie. Do you want to know what's coming, or do you prefer to be surprised?
I suppose the real terror is in the choice, isn't it?
That's a good way to put it. So the next time you find yourselves creeping through the corridors of Sevastopol Station, keep this in mind. You might have more options than you think. Just maybe don't get too comfortable out there.
Because in the world of Alien, isolation, nowhere is truly safe.
Unless you're playing Mission 7, apparently.
Well, there's always an exception to the rule, right?
Right. All right, folks, that's a wrap on another deep dive. Until next time. Ever wish you could just fly through Sevastopol Station, without becoming alien chowder?
Right.
Today's deep dive is for those of us who maybe aren't built for those marathon hiding sessions. I get it, Alien. Isolation is all about atmosphere, dread. But sometimes you just got to make a break for it.
Totally. Sometimes stealth means knowing when to sprint.
Exactly. So we've got some intel on the best running spots in the game. But this isn't just a hold W to win kind of thing.
No.
It's about understanding the game's pacing.
Right. Absolutely. It's about how the game designers actually want you to experience the fear, the tension. Running at the right time is part of that.
And to help break it all down, we've got an expert who knows this game like the back of their hand.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I've definitely logged a few too many hours on Sevastopol.
Perfect. So our source breaks this down by mission, which is super helpful.
Love a good organized list.
Right. First up, the end of Mission 2. After, that whole mess. It says we can actually sprint here.
Yeah. It's like this weird sigh of relief the game gives you, almost like a reward for surviving that encounter.
But a false sense of security, knowing this game.
Oh, absolutely. And that elevator at the end, hitting that button is almost a signal, like you're alerting the AI.
Ooh. Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah.
Classic isolation move.
Mm,
Okay, mission 4. This one's blowing my mind a little. We can run the whole mission.
pretty much. There's one little detail, though.
Oh, there's always a catch.
The vents, they're dripping slime the whole time. It's so subtle, but so effective.
Oh, God, yeah. Safe, but not really safe.
Exactly. And it's those small touches that really make this game unforgettable.
For sure. All right, this is where things get interesting. Mission 7, end section dot completely xenomorph free.
Yep. This one always throws me for a loop.
Seriously, how does that even work?
I think the devs are playing with your expectations here. Maybe they originally planned a different encounter or wanted to highlight a different kind of threat.
Like other survivors or malfunctions or...
Exactly. Suddenly, the environment itself becomes the enemy.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, then it's a regular track meet, missions 8, 11, 12, 13, all clear for running.
Yeah, it's like the game's giving you a breather, a chance to, like, catch your breath before the next jump scare.
Right. Stock up, explore, makes sense. But then at mission 14, slams on the brakes. No more running after that lever. What changes?
My guess, the level design gets tighter, or maybe there's a new enemy type that's more sensitive to noise.
So back to creeping around corners.
Exactly.
Okay, mission 15, we've got a face hugger in play, but we can still run. Is that smart?
Yeah, it's a gamble. Facehuggers are all about erratic movement. You might actually be making yourself more of a target if you're not careful.
So distractions are our friend here.
Big time.
Gotcha. Mission 16, another twist EVA suit time. No running after the halfway point. Of course not.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it wouldn't be a spacewalk without the clunky suit slowing you down, right?
Exactly. Plus, I imagine that thing is loud, like ring the dinner bell for the alien.
Right. Stealth in space.
Yeah,
Easier said than done.
truth. Okay, final stretch, mission 17. We're almost home. Can we finally cut loose?
Looks like it. It's that final mad dash to freedom, a classic ending, right? Everything's falling apart, and you're just trying to survive.
Gives me chills just thinking about it. So, we've got the intel on where to run, but it's bigger than that,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. This isn't about breaking the game. It's about understanding how to play it.
Yeah. It's like these safe zones are clues.
Exactly. They tell you something about the game's pacing, how it rewards different approaches.
So even with this knowledge, we're not invincible.
Not even close. Knowing when to run is just one piece of the puzzle.
So outsmart that xenomorph, use your tools, and for goodness sake, stay out of the vents.
Unless you like slime.
Ugh, no thanks.